Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and it is that time again where we get a chance to start looking at some more brand new Beasts of the Mesozoic figures, and straight away we are beginning that task with one of the most incredible looking Fans' Choice figures that will be released. We have the Medusaceratops, and this thing is looking awesome. Definitely, in my opinion, better than the original one, which the original one was gorgeous, but this one looks to, again, be so flashy, so visually appealing, like it's just hard not to completely fall in love with this figure at first glance. But what's actually really cool about this is the Medusaceratops was the very first Ceratopsian that I got to review from the Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series. So it's pretty neat to actually have that be the first one that I get to review from the Fans' Choice as well. I do want to give a huge shout out to David Silva, who was awesome enough to kind of send this one over a little bit earlier rather than waiting for them to actually come into stock. He gave me one of these awesome early production samples to check out with you guys. But again, as far as the box art goes, it looks pretty much just like it did throughout the course of the entire Ceratopsian series. You've got that beautiful Beast of the Mesozoic logo up there on the top right-hand corner over the slip, but you also have, again, Fans' Choice up above that. And then down under that, you have a really cool image of our Medusaceratops, and then, of course, the species name. And then you also have the window area there where you can sort of see the Ceratopsian a little bit. And then over here on the side, we have, again, Beasts of the Mesozoic and a Triceratops right there. And then, again, the window over here. But then on the back, you've got the slip, which shows off kind of like a sneak peek of the collectible card inside. And then you have the back of the box, which actually shows off the different Fans' Choice figures that are in this wave. I can see if I can get this out of the way. It's actually taped over here. Actually, let me cut the tape. So now we can kind of slide that out of the way a little bit. And you can now see the, again, different versions of the different figures that are in the Fans' Choice wave. We have the Medusaceratops, which we are about to take a look at, the Pachyrhinosaurus, which I believe is based on the Walking with Dinosaurs version, the Torosaurus, which I believe is based on the Walking with Dinosaurs documentary version. This would be Scowler, I believe, from the movie, and then the documentary version. And then up here we have, of course, our old buck Styracosaurus as well, which there are actually two different versions of this. There's a bloody version and then a non-bloody version. So definitely really cool to have those in this wave of figures. But let's go ahead, pop this out of the box right now, and check this out. So first of all, in the packaging, we have the Ceratopsian's tail assembly, which this is very important to listen to and to read, and will definitely help you get the joint together, the tail onto that ball joint, because it can be very hard depending on which figure you are getting. It can sometimes be very, very complicated to get those on if you're just going to try to force it on, but it's best to listen to this and heat that up to kind of put it on a lot easier, and also so you don't break the figure. But very important to listen to that again. And then we've got ourselves the Medusaceratops card, and look at how beautiful that is. Such a really cool image there of our Medusaceratops, just kind of relaxing in, again, quite possibly the most colorful and somehow really natural looking coloration that I've seen. Like, I don't understand how so many really cool flashy colors can actually look like it potentially could be the color of the dinosaur. It's just very impressive to me. Something that the Beasts of the Mesozoic line has been super good at since they began. And then you, of course, have the Beasts of the Mesozoic logo down there. And then on the back, we have a little dinosaur toy photography up there with a shot of the actual figure itself. And then, again, the Medusaceratops, as well as some information here on the Ceratopsian. And then down here, who is responsible for the artwork of this card. Super cool. Love the fact that these are included. And then we've got ourselves our Medusaceratops, which the feet aren't exactly in the right spot right now, but we'll get there. We'll get to that point eventually. But look at that. That is just absolutely beautiful, and something that personally I would have never expected to work so well on a Ceratopsian is the kind of like metallic sort of coloration that they have on this, but somehow it really does. It just makes the entire figure pop so nicely, and the color scheme, again, is just like there are so many colors included in this, but yet again, it looks like it could 100% be the coloration of this dinosaur, because even though there's so many different colors, the majority of the figure kind of remains a darkish tone, and I usually like dark tones with my Ceratopsians, so it works really well for the figure, I think, but also, again, just adds some unreasonable elements of flashiness to it that just make the figure stand out in my opinion, as potentially one of the best from this line overall, and definitely one of the best from the Fans' Choice Ceratopsians. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this right now. Now, if you are not familiar with what the Fans' Choice versions are, basically what that means is it's just a repaint of the previously released figure. Now, they give it a newer paint scheme that was voted on by the fans of the Beasts of the Mesozoic. So, again, you can basically vote on the dinosaurs to look however you would like, and this is the paint scheme that won for this one. And normally, again, they're always just repaints. However, with the Styracosaurus that is coming out, the Styracosaurus is actually re-sculpted quite a bit to really resemble that old buck version of a Styracosaurus. But this one, again, sculpt-wise, is exactly the same as the original Medusaceratops. So we really only need to look at what's going on coloration-wise, because that's what's different. But again, the sculpt is phenomenal of this figure. So as per usual, starting up here at the head sculpt of our Medusaceratops, you can see that we have a nice blackish tone for quite a bit of the face, and you can see that's like all up here on the frill as well. But we do have that black that kind of leaks down and designs down. You can see it splotches in a few spots and does actually reach down into the lower jaw. And within that black, you actually have a lot of different colors. As you can see, just running along right here, we have this really cool metallic blue that I think just beyond pops on the figure. You also have like a greenish kind of metallic color running along the top here, and then you can see that this area here is painted with a nice brown, but it kind of has like a light brown and then a darker brown wash to it to highlight the cracks and crevices in that area, which looks really cool. The area right here, you can see we have a nice white tone, which I like the fact that that white is included because it really makes that black striping down stand out. And those two colors, of course, black and white, are going to mesh beautifully together and play off of each other beautifully, and they absolutely do when it comes to that particular area of our Medusaceratops. You can see that we've also got some dry brushing of that bluish tone in a few spots, a little more of that blue here in the nostril area, and then the eye is painted with a green, given a black pupil, perfectly placed, absolutely no sloppiness, and on top of that there is a nice gloss coat on the eye to make it shine quite realistically. And then leading up here into the horns of our dinosaur, you can see that we have a nice light brown, but there's also been a darker brown that's actually dry brushed over, but it's really subtle. Like, I don't know how good it's showing up here on camera, but in person, it is really nicely done. You can definitely see how nice that light dry brushing is. And then you have some darker brown stripes that lead out through the course of the horns. And then we end the horns with a nice dark brown tip. And that's the same style of coloration for both of the horns. You can also see more of that metallic green right there on the top of the head, as well as more of that metallic blue. And then leading up here into the frill, you can start to see some other variation of color. We have kind of like a metallic brown, or almost like a light brown, almost approaching like a peach type color. You have more of that green, some more of the blue, a darker shade of metallic blue right there, a little bit more of that kind of greenish gold type color. Then you have a very dark reddish tone up here on the top, well, actually like the center of this area of the frill. And then you also have more of that darker blue that kind of runs up here through the center of the frill and then along the upper part, which looks really cool. And you can see up here we have that same style of coloration as what we do on the horns, where we have that nice light brown with the nice darker brown dry brushing that's just, again, really subtle. And then you have those stripes running along that area. You can see that we have, again, more of that kind of like, I don't know if it's a dry brushing or a wash that we have there. It's a little hard to make it out, but you can see that we do have that coloration running down here along the spikes of the side of the frill also. And then leading down here into the lower jaw, again, we have that white tone, but it transitions to a beautiful light brown for the lower part of the jaw. Some areas a little darker than others. Like you have a little bit of a darker area of the brown here that lightens up, and it almost actually turns into like a brownish wash out there. And you can see how nice all of the scales just pop so beautifully right there in that area. The beak as well has that same style of coloration, again, to what we see on the spikes and stuff with the light brown, as well as that dry brushing, particularly right here at the tip of the beak. We have that dry brushing, which is a little more intense, which I do quite like as well. And then you, of course, can articulate many different areas of the figure, but on the inside of the mouth, we have a nice purplish tone in there, which looks really good. The tongue articulates, but it's back there a little bit too far that I can't reach it. I'll have to get in there with something to grab it. And the teeth are all painted, but I don't know how well that's all picking up here on camera because the mouth is very dark in there. You can't get in there too well to see it, but you can definitely take my word that the teeth are painted in there, and again, the tongue is in there painted very nicely with a purplish tone, and all articulates very, very nicely. You can also see the jaw is very smooth articulation-wise. As you move back here into the neck region, you have more of that metallic blue showing up, and then again up here on the top of the body of the dinosaur, and then a little bit more here that kind of follows almost like a zigzag type of a look, as we have variations of browns that kind of, actually look like they're dry brushed over that area, and then you have more of that light coloration with the brown wash down here, and that same type of coloration continues to run down, and I love how beautiful that looks. Look at how nice and realistically all of the skin texture pops now thanks to that brownish wash. It is absolutely beautiful as far as the way it's been applied. You can see even here on the underside of the feet, we still have that brownish wash that just makes all of that scale detail, that skin texture pop very realistically. And then moving back up here, you could see more coloration. Again, just more flashy metallic tones, even a little bit more of a hint of that green showing up right there. And then leading back toward the shoulder, we again have more of that green, and then just again, even purples, like there's more color throughout. Even like this little stripe right here, I could see like goldish colors, brownish type colors. Like there's just so much variation of color included on this figure. It is really, really crazy, but so impressive to look at here in person. As you move down here toward the leg, you can again see that bluish tone. You can even see some light dry brushing of some purplish tones, and then more of the black here in the stomach region. But moving down here, you can see more of that bluish tone. You also have more of the black on the back of the leg before we transition to that brown. And I like how they've dry brushed some of the darker brown, highlighting the scales right there. But you can see as we move down, that brown starts to taper off before we get to kind of like that off-white. But that nice brownish wash, again, continues to give it kind of like a light brown appearance, but also just highlight the scale detail in brilliant fashion. You do have the nails painted very nicely with a black or a dark brown. It's a little hard to tell, but definitely a really nice tone of color used, and there is a gloss coat on the nails, helping them to shine quite nicely also. You can again see how that brown wash highlights all of the detail here in the lower part of the stomach. And then as we lead back up, you can see how we have that kind of sort of zigzag type of an effect for the way that the two colors play off of each other, from the darker tones to the lighter tones. And then you can see how that dark blue continues to follow that zigzag, but you also have more of that purple right there up above. And then leading up here, you have another splotch of that green, kind of like almost like a copper type of a metallic tone right there, and then more of that metallic blue running along the top of the dinosaur there, running along the back, which looks insanely nice. You have more areas here of some more of that purple, and then blue kind of mixed together with black. You can see like right here we have black, blue, purple right there all in a row. And we also have that lighter tone right there. And then as you move down the leg, again, you can see how the black tapers off, but we also dry brushed some of it out a little bit to highlight some more of the scale detail yet again. And then down here in the foot sculpt, you can again see that lighter tone of color with the really nicely painted nails, again, perfectly glossed and everything. And then leading back up here, you transition back to the black, but then again leading out the length of the tail, you continue to have that really beautiful blue, and then the black that kind of zigzags here, and then the lighter tones of color here for the underside. So man, the paint job of this is absolutely beautiful. In my opinion, again, this is better than the original one. I'm thinking I'm going to have to bring the original one in here and display it with it for a moment just to kind of look at the two together. But you can see all of the coloration and paintwork again looks pretty much exactly the same over here as it did on the initial side. Just absolutely beautiful. These Beasts of the Mesozoic figures are some of the most addictive figures on the market. Like once you buy one, you can't help but want to own them all. They are all just so beautiful, and again, some of the best versions of the species that they represent that you're going to find anywhere. And when it comes to a color scheme like this, probably the flashiest Medusaceratops I'm ever going to see. The paintwork of this and the sculpt and everything is just drop dead gorgeous. And then as far as the articulation goes, again, if you are familiar with the figure, you'll already know the articulation, because there hasn't, as far as I know, there hasn't been any updates to the sculpt or anything on this one. But you can see that again we have the jaw articulation, we also have the tongue articulation there on the inside of the mouth, and then you have two areas in the neck that articulate, which allows some really nice posability for your Ceratopsian, especially as far as looking left and right, but also, up, down. You've got all sorts of mobility in that neck for your Ceratopsian. You also have articulation right here and then as well in the elbow, which is definitely going to be stiff. It does go forward and back. It's a little stiff at this point in time, but that often happens when it comes to, you know, beasts of the Mesozoic figures straight out of the box. So you usually end up having some stiff joints that you have to kind of warm up or just wear in a little bit. You also have wrist articulation, which you can see can swivel, and of course can go, you know, up, back, all sorts of mobility there. Then you have the articulation in the midsection, which you can actually swivel, but also again make it go left, right, up, down. Some very nice articulation there. You have the articulation in the hip, which can go forward and back, as well as the knee. You can see we have knee articulation there, back, and then again forward. Really nice there. And then two areas near the ankle, which can go forward and back. In both areas, you can see it does that, so that it allows some really smooth walking displays for your Ceratopsian. And then, of course, will allow you to position the legs in whatever way you'd like to stand your Ceratopsian. And then, of course, they can swivel as well. And then you have the tail articulation, which can go left, right, up, down, all over the place. So articulation galore for your Medusaceratops. As far as a size goes, if you are not familiar with the figure, for a length, you are looking at about 11¼ inches, or right around 31½, closing in on 32 centimeters. And then for a height to the top of the frill, a little under 5½ inches, or right around 13½ centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Medusaceratops. But we have already done this in the past if you are familiar with the figure, or if you've seen my first review of the original Medusaceratops, you're probably already going to know roughly what the size is. So I don't feel like we need to do very many size comparisons. The one size comparison that I really, well, it's not even a size comparison, but the one comparison I really want to do would be with the other Medusaceratops. So let's do that. There we have the original Medusaceratops next to the fans' choice version of the Medusaceratops. But actually bringing the original one back out here, man, it's really tough, honestly, to choose a favorite between these two. I really like both. Now, I was like so confident that the fans' choice version was going to be my favorite, but actually, again, now having the original one out here, I'm not as sure anymore because they're both incredible. But one thing is for sure about this is the fact that, again, no matter which way you go, or if you go both ways, you're purchasing yourself one of the best versions of a Ceratopsian, period, but definitely of a Medusaceratops. There is no doubt about that. So this brand new Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series fans' choice Medusaceratops is about as beautiful of a Ceratopsian figure as you're ever going to find. Like, it honestly has everything you could possibly want on a Ceratopsian. The sculpt is incredibly highly detailed. They always are when it comes to a Beasts of the Mesozoic figure. You're never going to find laziness in anything that comes from the Beasts of the Mesozoic. David puts so much time and effort and work into what he does that it is mind-blowing to me, again, how above and beyond he goes to make sure that we get the best possible product. And I really think that that shines through on everything that he releases. But again, detail-wise, it is potentially the most highly detailed Medusaceratops you're ever going to find. There's just detail for days on this figure. The scale detail, everything on it detail-wise is so incredibly vibrant and really crisp through the entire figure. But of course, with this one, the most important aspect is the coloration, because that's what's new. That's what differs this one from the original. And I feel like David has completely succeeded in creating potentially the flashiest Ceratopsian that I've ever seen. The use of the metallic tones of color, in my opinion, was not something I expected to love so much until I had actually seen the images of it that David had posted of the original prototype, and I was just in love instantly. And that feeling still remains the same here after seeing the figure in person, maybe even amplified now actually having it here in hand. The coloration of this, again, is so incredibly cool, so unique, but somehow actually does look natural. Looks like it could potentially be the color of the figure, or of the species, I should say. And David's always done a great job of doing that, like bringing really flashy color schemes to life on his figures in ways that look lifelike and realistic, exactly with the original Medusaceratops. Again, another really flashy coloration for that figure, but it looked believable to me, and that's exactly what we have again here with this version of the fans' choice Medusaceratops. So many different tones of color applied, just incredible paintwork all throughout the entire figure. And then you of course have articulation, which is one of the things that the beasts of the Mesozoic are most popular for. And all of the articulation seems to work perfectly on this, very smoothly. I have yet to have any problems with any of my Beasts of the Mesozoic figures as far as the articulation goes. Every single time I've purchased a Beasts of the Mesozoic figure, the articulation has been great, and that's exactly the same case here for this Medusaceratops. So if you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that right now on the Creative Beast Studio website, where this is available for pre-order. And as you can quite clearly tell, since I have one now here in my hands, the release date of this figure, the time that it's going to begin shipping, is right around the corner, as we obviously have this production sample here to look at. That means that the figure is definitely on its way very soon. So make sure you get that pre-order in. Check the link in the description. Grab yourself this gorgeous Medusaceratops, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe before you do. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.